All right. Okay. Good. Yeah, that's good because you're giving. Okay.
Course 3, Session 3, Part 2.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem amma ba'd. So back to Ayah 93. So 92 and 93 were going together. That Moses came to you with clear arguments, clear proofs, and you took the calf, and you were zalimun. Again, remember, zalim literally means one who makes darkness. In the context of the Quran, it usually means one who is committing oppression, and usually it's oppression against yourself. That's essentially how to think of the formula. Then we made the covenant with you, raised the mountain above you, saying, take hold of what we have given you with firmness, and be obedient. They say, we hear, we disobey. And they drank in their hearts the calf with rejection. So essentially, the love of the calf was permeating through their hearts on account of their kufr. So they're then being told, okay, evil, say, قُلْ بِئْسَمَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِهِ إِيمَانُكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ مُؤْمِنِينَ. So if you are really a believer, the belief that you have is evil. Or you can say wrong. This again is repulsive in our culture, to call someone's belief wrong. I mean, so just try to do that. Like when you have a patient, just say, "What's your belief system?" Oh, that's wrong. Just see what happens, right? Yeah. So the point is, however, at least in your consciousness, you may have to have that outlook. I'm not advising you to go tell people their beliefs are wrong. It's like telling someone that their mother is wrong. Yeah. Okay, leading from there, 94 and 95. Say, if the future with Allah, in kanat lakum darul akhirah. So if for you is the house of the hereafter in the law with Allah, khalisan, exclusively only you, min dunin nas, to the exclusion of everyone else, fatamannu al-maut. So, gosh, man. I feel bad for all of you people who have to look at this. It's just so not attractive. Yeah. It's me. It's like no, there's no good angle.
We look every time. You just can't see us.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. The good angle would be like with the lights off, right? Or just put it out of focus. No, I earned it, so it's not like a genetic disorder or anything. Yeah. So, go ahead, Nadia. You can laugh. It's okay. Stop yourself from laughing. It's all right. Yeah. All right. Good. So you should wish for death if you are truthful.
Wait.
Okay. فَتَمَنَّوُا الْمَوْتِ.
That means that you should wish for death
if you believe you are guaranteed paradise. Oh.
This is a challenge we see often in the Quran.
Now, so Max Weber, German sociologist, you say, uh-oh?
Is that how you pronounce it? I always said Weber.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look cultured, you say Weber. Yeah. So, thinking of jokes on jokes. So he decides he wants to study, this is the 1800s, why is America on top of the world? Remember, this is the 1800s, why is America on top of the world? And especially in comparison to Europe. And he's observing that, okay, Europe is predominantly Catholic, and America is predominantly not just Protestant, but Calvinist. That was essentially the original Christianity of America. And
this has to be early 18th century.
Yeah.
18th century?
1800s.
1800s, early 1800s. It has to be. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways.
So he also notices that in terms of American success, America itself within society, people are reaching really huge heights, whereas in Europe, people are satisfied with getting up to a certain level, but they don't really try very hard. And he connects this with theology. he says that, all right, in Calvinist Christianity, if you are doing this is a material world, so if you're doing well materially in this world, then that's a sign that God loves you and you're going to have a good life in the next world. So if you're doing materially well in this world, this sign
God favored you.
That God favored you.
Yeah.
So then how do you do materially well in this world? You got to work hard for it.
That means you got to turn away from God.
So to speak, yeah, right? So you have to work really hard to earn, then to have land and to have savings and such. Okay? So he's saying the theology created this work ethic, okay? The Protestant ethic. Okay? But he says in Catholicism, and by extension Lutheran Christianity, which is essentially the Protestant version of Catholicism, there wasn't that concern as much about the hereafter. Even though there's all kinds of indications you're in trouble, gosh, that's even worse. So, that's obvious. Well, it is kind of a good angle in terms of looking at the room and everything. So anyway, see, look at the corner. See right here, you see this belly. Ding. Right here. Anyway, so you're saying that the Catholics already believe that their salvation is guaranteed. So there is no need to work. Okay. And so why is America on top of the world? Because they work harder than everybody else. Why? Because that's what the theology is compelling. Okay. Now apply that to us. Does that make sense so far?
So in essence, he's saying that Calvinist Protestantism is you basically make your own success versus the fatalism of the eternal decree, essentially, right?
That if you believe you're guaranteed salvation, then you're not really going to work for it.
Yeah.
So
predestination. That's what I'm looking for.
predestination.
Yes.
So if I'm not really concerning if I'm Muslim. So this is kind of related to the question I asked a little while ago. If I'm Muslim and I'm not really concerning myself with my hereafter, effectively, what am I saying? That I'm guaranteed salvation. That's essentially what I'm saying, right? Because you can't not be concerned about hell. I mean, put your hand in a fire. Hell is worse than that, right?
That sounds like my dad.
I just turned into your father. Right? Yeah. How does that sound like your dad?
That one I don't know. The first one.
Oh my God.
You just said beta. Isn't it good?
Did I say Berta? Did I call you Berta? Is that
No,
what
you
I was?
should.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing that a lot lately, especially with non-Daisies.
You
Okay,
know what?
Berta. Yeah.
Does that mean like truly like you don't care at all, or that I missed namaz, it's okay, I'll make qaza and I'll like go on with my life?
So I mean, it goes back to all those other thought experiments. Like, suppose, you were going to die at midnight, right? Or suppose, do you really feel that, all right, if I skip this prayer, that I am going to be in a fire, right? I mean, it's essentially how much of a reality, how much of a seriousness, how much of how much seriousness I apply to all that. You know what I'm saying? So the point is that here you have people who, what is a cause for kufr? In Ayah 94, a cause for kufr is essentially the belief of guaranteed salvation.
Chosen people mentality.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a pathway to
subhanallah.
kufr.
Mm.
How deep is that? Pretty deep.
Yeah.
Pretty deep. How deep is that deep? So Ayah 95 says, okay, so you're being told to them, all right, if you believe, you're not just guaranteed salvation, you're guaranteed to the exclusion of everyone else. Okay. Then you should be praying for death. And Ayah 95 says they will never do it. Lan. Okay. Negation. Yatamannahu. They will never desire it. Abadan. Ever. Why? Bima qaddamat aydihim. Because of what their hands have done. And you can read this two ways. One is that they know they're going to be held to account for the things that they've done. Right? Another way you can read this is that because of what their hands have done, because of their actions, they don't have iman in it. You know, like if you do sin, you're weakening your iman in the hereafter, unless you come back from your sin by seeking forgiveness.
Is this verse in Surah Jum'ah also?
Sorry?
This verse is in Surah Jum'ah also, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Exact verse, I believe.
So another cause of kufr is the belief of guaranteed salvation. And so the point is that you may think you believe in guaranteed salvation, but you really don't.
How does that apply to us?
So if I am not concerning myself with my hereafter, effectively I'm saying I got nothing to worry about. Right?
And I think that Muslims can
So
easily fall into that
Absolutely.
and saying, well, we have the deen, we've got the haqq, and
We've
these
got the
poor
deen, we
mushrikeen.
have the shifa of the Prophet, peace be
Yeah.
upon him.
Yeah, right.
There's a hubris that comes with that.
So I have a question.
Yes,
So what
ma'am.
if, like, okay, when you're approaching your responsibilities as a Muslim,
Yeah.
you can look at it as like a compilation of everything that you know,
Yeah.
and then it becomes like almost damning, like it's overwhelming, and you can almost go
Yeah.
into despair, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So then you have to backtrack and say, well, clearly I'm doing a lot of stuff that's either exclusion of fard or maybe even be minor harm or major harm, whatever
Yeah.
it is, wherever you stand, you know?
Yeah.
So on some level, you have to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't forgive you because you're working towards it.
Yes.
So where does that sound? Like,
Okay,
you know what I'm
so
saying?
a way to look at this is that the general notion you find is that the amount of things you're obliged to do
Uh-huh.
cannot be done in one human life. Right.
Wait,
So-
say that again? What?
All the things you are actually supposed to do, if you are to truly be a 100% Muslim, it cannot be accomplished in one human life, unless you're like a prophet.
Yeah.
Which is to say that there's a progression, right? So you're going to be doing wrong and eliminating that wrong and getting to a higher state. Because if you could do everything at once and it wasn't actually a process, then you can do it in one life, right? Presumably.
Yeah, I want to say so far, but I don't know if I'm understanding your whole
I guess what I'm saying is that my point is that to believe, you have to at some point, because salvation versus forgiveness, you
Yeah.
know? Because on some level you have to say, I know that I'm not living a perfect life, and I have to accept that, I have to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to forgive me, because I can't change everything all at once.
Okay.
I can't.
So I'm agreeing with everything you're saying, and what I'm suggesting is a different modifying that into a different outlook, which is essentially continuous quality improvement. For a little.
Continuous quality improvement.
Of course,
Perfect.
which I stole completely from the business world. But basically, again, the idea that look at all your different practices in life as being on a staircase or on a ladder. And so my goal is to figure out, in this specific practice in my life, what's the next step that I can do to improve. So in my salah, whatever level I'm at. So look at yourself for whatever date it is today. Well, we're still early on in March. Look at what your February was like. Look at what your stable level of salah is, and then figure out what for the next month you can improve upon.
How do you keep yourself from not relying, but I guess you're just supposed to have hope that Muslim Shifa will help you out when you need it.
Yeah.
But oftentimes what happens is, you become reliant on that a little bit, and you fall prey to this sort of,
It's I think that's very, very natural, right?
Yeah.
As a physician, I'm sure you've had a billion patients where you've told them, all right, you don't do this anymore. And they'll keep doing it, right? Even if they're at death's door, some people can't stop,
Yeah, right.
right? So even if you have that in front of you, some people, when they're faced with that, they're like, all right, I got to be honest with myself. I got to change my practices,
Right.
right? And each of us has to go through that moment,
Right.
where you got to be honest with yourself. What am I getting out of the way I'm living my life? But it's still even then hard to change because you're just as much a product of people around you.
I mean, for Muslims who are believing Muslims, I think there's all these things that kind of give you hope and have you inspire you to get better. Those same things can sometimes, when misused, can actually lead to kufr.
Of course. Or at least lead to sloth.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, sir.
can you describe, what this means a little better? I'm not really following when it says, bima qaddamat aydihim, because
Because what their hands have done, what their hands have sent.
what is
Qaddam is the same word that like qadim comes from, past.
Okay.
So qaddam is whatever they have sent from before. Okay. Meaning what they've done.
What they've done,
Yeah.
like meaning their actions,
Yes.
or
So the metaphor of what their hands have done is essentially their actions.
their actions.
Okay.
So it's saying that so they know they've done wrong.
So one way to read it is that they know that they've done wrong, and they're going to be facing account on the day of judgment, and they're not guaranteed heaven. Meaning they actually don't want to face the day of judgment.
So deep inside they know the truth,
Yeah.
but they're putting forth this sort of spin of that.
Meaning it's that delusional fantasy that a lot of times everyone has something. That's one way to read this. Another way to read this is that their actions have actually weakened their iman, so they don't really even believe, perhaps even in a salvation. Because this gets explained a little bit more in the next item.
Okay.
Okay, so I have kind of a weird question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what if, so I'm trying to present a scenario. So say there is two viewpoints, okay?
Okay.
And it's the same set of life actions or whatever, right? And so one is to say that, I recognize that I have these things that are keeping me from heaven or whatever. So I'm afraid to die, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one is your love for Allah supersedes your fear for accountability, and so you actually not have a death wish, but if you could die today versus live out your whole life, one would say, there's no way I would do it because
Yeah.
I have so much more to do. And
Yeah.
the other would say, if I could meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and just cut to the chase here, then I would.
Yeah.
How would Islam view those two?
I mean, I think they're both real, right?
But what's the viewpoint of Islam on that? Is there a viewpoint? I mean,
That
is
is
one
though they're wrong, right?
more faithful than the other, or?
I don't know that one's more faithful, but I will say that
Because you know how you were talking about hope and dunya versus akhirah, all that stuff, so how does it relate to all that?
well, I mean, I've had students who say, I don't care about anything, I just love God, but they
Well,
don't do anything to serve God, right?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
we're talking about the same set of actions, So
Yeah.
whatever it is, take that out of the question, take that out of the equation,
So two people have the exact same set of actions.
Yeah, so their
You're saying-
accountability, their account would be the same.
So one person is afraid of akhirah, afraid of judgment.
Right. So they're
The other person just
definitely
wants to-
afraid of even meeting their Lord because they're ashamed or
So
accountability, all that kind of stuff.
can't the same person have both?
They can. I'm just saying if you were to separate those two,
Yeah, I'd say that they're equal.
equal?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you might want to argue that the person who wants to meet Allah is higher, but I still think, practically speaking, they're mirror images.
I haven't been in class for a while, so I'm just building up all these things.
Yeah, that's all good. That's all good. I-96. Actually, in fact, we should probably end with I-96 because 97 changes the topic tremendously. Okay. So what does it say again about these people? You will find them. Muhammad, have you done this form, the tajidanna? I forgot. I-96. Repeat. Wala tajidanna.
No, we
It's a
haven't.
type of it. You'll get to it. It's an interesting form. It's basically when you have inna at the beginning, it's like triple emphasis, or you can put it right in the word
Oh, interesting, yeah.
by having la and then with the shadda on it. وَلَتَجِدَنَّهُمْ أَحْرَصَ النَّاسِ. You will find them definitely, the greediest among mankind in terms of their love for the world. These people that we're talking about who believe that they're guaranteed salvation, but they won't ask for death. Even more than the polytheists, which is another heavy point, which we're going to have to talk about
So
in a moment.
tajida means to find.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wajada is.
Wajada, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That I knew.
So you will find them the greediest among humanity in their love for the world.
Who is the you here?
You is, this is,
Because it's not one person, they're saying whom, so it's
well, home is referring to them.
them, okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it. Okay.
Tajida, this is singular.
Yeah, it is, right.
Yeah. I mean, overall, Allah is speaking to Muslims here.
Got it.
Right. Yeah. You will find them even more greedier for life than the polytheists. Every one of them wishes they could live 1,000 years. And even if they're granted 1,000 years, it won't reduce them from the chastisement, from the adab.
They want 1,000 years because they want to rebel and let their worldly thing?
So read this as a combination of they want to revel in the world, and they don't want to face judgment.
Ah, right.
And giving them another 1,000 years is not going to save them from the judgment, from the chastisement. So think about what that's also saying. Saying that they're going to continue
Not that
along.
change their actions, yeah.
Yeah. And Allah sees what they do. Wallahu basirun bima ya'malun. So, polytheists and their love for the world. Think about this point. That if I take monotheism, true monotheism, okay, where I am serving, submitting to Allah, okay, then what is my challenge? My challenge is in my heart, either I'm present in my own consciousness and valuing of myself, or my valuing of Allah Ta'ala. Okay. It's one or the other. If I'm polytheist, that is next to impossible to do. What instead happens is I take the gods according to whatever I want them to be. Okay. It's especially interesting when you talk to Hindus when they convert, when they tell you their stories of life as Hindus converting to Islam. One of my friends, he would talk about how he like Tawheed was being implanted in him. You know, in his Hindu days, he didn't even know it. Like every time he'd be upset, he'd take his god and put it in a closet to punish his god. Right. From our sense, that makes no sense, right? You know? Or I mean, we've talked about the story. We did the story of Omer like last week, right?
Yes.
Yeah, with his.
With the date.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And
Could you repeat about the polytheists because we lost connection at that time?
so basically saying that that when you are a monotheist, your challenge is to surrender completely to God. Okay. When you're a polytheist, that's very hard to do, because which God are you going to surrender to? And so the essential result becomes that your gods become manifestations of whatever you want them to be. And so the result becomes, if that's your religious outlook, the result becomes love of the world. Because the way you take your gods is essentially just an expression of your nafs. And that becomes your religion. Think about that.
But it's also sometimes your intellect, right? Like I think people take their intellect to there a lot.
I would put that still within nafs.
Yeah.
So
It's
it
enough, yeah.
negates the entire institution of polytheism as something divine.
Yeah.
You know?
Keep on.
No, that's what I'm saying, is that it basically negates the entire institution, that there's no way that polytheism could ever work and
Yeah.
never come from
Uh-huh.
something divine. It's a human creation.
Uh-huh. That polytheism is looked at as a form of oppression.
Yeah.
That you promote polytheism to keep people down, to keep them immersed in the world.
What I didn't understand the reference to 1,000 years here.
Meaning, if they're given 1,000 years more to live.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right. Because it's saying they wish they could live for 1,000 years longer.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't make it, so change 1,000, it probably has some significance, but I see it as large quantity. They wish they could live for another 1,000,000 years.
You know, I've heard, I don't know where I read this or heard about it, but what's interesting is even Hinduism, the way that they, like the true Hindus or whatever, they think of themselves as monotheistic.
Brahmins are monotheists.
Yes,
Brahmins are
because
monotheists.
it's
It's like
actually,
all part of one.
Yeah.
and it's different manifestations of different characters
Brahma,
of God
yeah.
being. But it's interesting because I feel like most Hindus that you talk to, they're considered polytheistic, right? They're considered, I mean, they're not one of the monotheistic religions, but interestingly, they are actually kind
It's
of.
called
If-
something
if-
else. I don't remember.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you get into the textbook religion versus how people practice it.
Right.
Right. Because Christianity sees itself as monotheist.
Right, but it's kind of
Right.
not, right? Yeah.
And-
That's
Or
part of it.
associating partners.
And that's how we see it, right? We say, okay, that doesn't make any
What about
sense,
the
but
Holy Spirit? What is-
Trinity kind of situation.
but the point being that, okay, even within Christianity,
There's poly, yeah.
but meaning I'm focused on Jesus. I'm focused on one part of the Trinity,
Right.
right? You know, that I'm not truly, when I'm saying God, I'm still saying three. And primarily focused on one of the three.
Are there
Judaism-
any, like clerics within the Christian faith that actually do agree that this is not monotheistic? When they're confronted with this question of Trinity, you know, I mean, they can't answer it first of all, but I mean, is there a way to reason with them and let them understand and accept that this is not monotheistic?
I think it's you develop. Like here they have love for the calf. It's you develop a love for Jesus, right? That there's this person in the Chicago community who as Muslims we often praise because of the way he speaks about Islam, but he's Catholic, right? And I think when you have this love for Jesus, just like that love for the calf, it's hard to get out of your system.
Oftentimes you'll hear that when that's attempted, from what I've seen, they'll say that, well, you're just kind of missing the point.
Yeah.
It's not really about the rationality of it. It's about where's your heart.
Yeah.
It's a spin. It's a way to shift
Isn't it
attention.
all part of one? They say three, but it's like one.
Yeah, I mean that's how it's looked at.
But
I've
it's
never
really
met
not
someone who could
practiced.
explain to me. But their outlook is, what are you doing? You're connecting your heart with Jesus.
Before you move forward,
Rashi's on.
totally off topic. Oh, we're done?
Yeah.
Okay, Nilafrat told me, because we're having computer problems, he said to ask you the dua that you told to Omer to fix things that aren't working. Like when your car wouldn't start.
What was it?
I texted you. I said, "Oh, I need your special dua," because
Yeah.
I said I need a dua, car starter dua,
Yeah.
and you're like, I was joking, but then you said, just ask for or admit your powerlessness
Yeah.
by asking forgiveness and mean it sincerely. So I'm like, okay, so I just said Allahumma ghfirli,
Yeah.
and I'm like, and then I really thought about it. I'm like, I really am powerful. This car won't start with that. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then it started right up.
Yeah. I remember.
And then I'm like,
what I said.
of course, the human, doubter.
Yeah, it's like, let's
I'm
try
like,
it
wow,
again.
okay, yeah, that could be coincidence, all this stuff, right? No, but then the next day, same thing. It happened again,
Really?
exact
Wow.
same scenario.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't
Did you
remember what
we
I
have to
told you.
not say it in future stories? That would be the truth.
Control. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I told
I
you.
tried starting it again. It was going. So then I'm like, I really did say sincere dua, I thought I had, Then I texted you again. I was still joking again. I go, I need your special dua again.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, admit to Allah that you're taking a shortcut by asking someone else. That's what he said.
Really?
Yeah, he said
I don't remember
that. I think you were
I remember
joking
the event,
too.
but I don't remember.
But then I'm like, yeah, okay, he's right. Let me say the dua again. Started right up. It worked twice. So. Yeah, the first time was like, it was like, subhanallah.
Some of the lights are flashing
Remember
everywhere.
when you were talking
Like the
about...
emergency light in the video.
I'm forgetting, he wasn't a prophet, but on his deathbed he was speaking to his son.
Luqman.
Mom.
Yes, it was Luqman. And he was talking about, he was giving him words of wisdom,
Yeah.
but basically it was a summary statements of everything that's
All of
essential
the-
to our Islam, but he
Yeah.
doesn't have the book, or he doesn't
Yeah.
have even a book. So what does that say about our time? I just wonder, because I feel like there are people who, I had this girl in my residency class, and she was from Gibraltar. She had the cutest accent, always had a smile on her face.
Side
She was-
points,
No, but my point is, and the thing about it, she was just an amazing human being.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
And she was technically she was Hindu. You know what I mean?
Is she from Gibraltar? Wow, that's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so she died in a car accident in Gibraltar.
I think you told me.
Yeah, and so somebody like her, I have a friend who was really good friends with her, and she was on the phone and she was incessantly crying. She goes, I cannot believe that our faith would send somebody Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send her to hell because she didn't even live a full life. You know what I mean? So can you be Muslim without actually being Muslim? Is what I'm kind of asking. That's kind of a weird question.
One was best.
That ties back to the time where it's wouldn't be any Christians that could have it, and it's no, they're called Muslims. He was quoting what you quoted.
Oh,
a couple
yeah.
of classes.
Oh, yeah,
and then
that's
any Muslim.
Are there any?
non-Muslim.
Is there any such thing as a good Christian?
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
all of
Muslim.
them.
Muslim.
Muslim. Yeah. So it's one of those things where you hope for the best, right? But again, everyone's going to be treated fairly.
That's what you have to believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I-62. I mean, it's...
Yeah. Okay, so we've been looking at causes of kufr, and then we're going to be going back to manifestations of kufr. The next topic is going to be wrong things people do related to the unseen. Good. Really?
What is outside?
Sounds like
Oh.
sounds like a talk show.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Suddenly things are coming back. I'm
What is
beginning
that?
to
Okay.
remember some slivers of memory. Because
What did you say? I don't know.
included in the unseen are those little Ginny Gin Gins. Yeah.
What do you want that movie that's coming out called
Oh
Jin?
my god.
Oh. Should we
I hope
watch
it
that
doesn't
as a
suck.
class?
Yes.
Should we watch it or not? As like what?
Why not?
What's up?
If you saw all the things that I watched,
I know, right?
like on Netflix, yeah.
People get uncomfortable, so if you're
As
not
long as it's not
talking
in my house.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Like I've watched like all the documentaries. I shouldn't even say it, you know.
No, go
Say
ahead.
it. Say
On
it.
the Amityville Horror, they have a bunch of documentaries.
Oh,
Is it real? They have interviews with the kid who was living in the house and the next door neighbor. You know, and it's weird because all these documentaries show this one photo.
Of the
There's
house.
like only one piece of evidence, like you know the story, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I read,
like
I read
I
the
don't
book.
even know.
so there's